Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is BorderlessBlack. I am your host, Eric Saeed Green. I am originally from Philadelphia, but I have been in Germany for 23 years. 23 years! It's been a very, very long time, but quite the experience. I've been to multiple continents, over 20 countries. I've been all over Germany. I've taught in German. I've done stand-up comedy in German. I've been the only black person at over 3 German companies. I want to give you an idea of how it feels to be black in Germany, but also how it feels to be black in the world, because a lot of people don't understand that. Now, it changes when you leave America, because to be black in America is definitely a different experience than it is to be black in Germany, than it is to be a black American in Africa, than it is to be a black American in different parts of Europe, Portugal, Spain, etc. It changes, but this channel won't just stop at my experience. I want you all to know how it feels to be the only one in the room from a lot of different perspectives. So different races, not just black, even though the channel is called BorderlessBlack. Now, as far as myself, I came here back in 2003 as a soldier, but what led up to me coming here as a soldier? And so that's what this first video is going to be about. Now, when I got here in 2003, I went straight to Iraq, right? But, you know, it's not necessarily something that I chose. It was just a situation that I was thrown into. What led up to that, and then what happened afterwards? And so as we dive into different videos, you'll understand the story a bit more. Now, my story starts a very, very long time ago, many, many moons ago. Let's take it back to 16 years old, right? So 16 years old, I dropped out of school. For me, it wasn't such a big deal because I had already stopped going to class when I was 12, which is crazy because now I'm an educator. So I dropped out of school at 16 to start following my brother around, all right? Him and his friends. Now, my brother, 4 years older than me, Kevin. And just following him around and trying to learn how it is to walk around the city and interact with new things. Also, at 16, it was the time where I decided I'm gonna leave home. So I left home, and my brother, he hooked it up so that I can stay with some of his friends, and they looked out for me. And I'm just trying to figure things out. And so I'm looking at what my brother's doing, and I'm following that. And so something that he was doing, which I felt was super impressive, was that he was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners. So Kirby vacuum cleaners is a very expensive vacuum cleaner, which you have to sell door to door, right? So we would knock on doors every day. Now, by this time, my brother, he was already doing other things. So I was out there selling the vacuum cleaners by myself, but I would knock on doors and I would convince people to let me into their house, right? And then I had 2 hours to sell them this super expensive vacuum cleaner. It cost $1,680. I don't know how much it costs nowadays, but back in the 90s, 97, it cost $1,680. Every machine that I sold, I made $300 off of it. Now, to make $300 off of a 2-hour experience as a 17-year-old is like, one night, I sold 2 of them in one house. 2 of them in one house. Now, it was a black family. It was a son visiting his mother, and they both were impressed by the machine. And I think they also said, hey, let's look out for this young black guy, even though he smells like weed. Let's go ahead, let's go ahead and put some money in his pocket. And they did that. And I still remember it to this day. If you are watching this video and you remember me, thank you. Thank you. Now, so I sold the Kirby vacuum cleaners for a bit. And, you know, you're young and you're kind of like just bouncing around from experience to experience. So I bounced to another experience. Around 18 years old, my brother found a connect to sell clothes. So buy clothes from New York, bring them back to Philadelphia, and then sell on the street. And so he brought me in. And so we would take the Greyhound bus or the Peter Pan bus. The Peter Pan bus was always nicer because the Peter Pan had a movie screen on there so you can watch movies, you know. But both buses only took 2 hours to get to New York. You arrive at the Port Authority. You make it out to Canal Street, which is like Canal Street and Broadway. You buy clothes in Chinatown, you bring them back to Philadelphia, and you make money, right? Now, we had a system. Every morning, we would go down to Center City, And we would go to like the local vendors, like the ones that make the food right on the street. You can smell it when you get to the city. You can smell the food being made. And every morning we would get a sausage and egg sandwich with a Welch's grape. We would get that. You want to wait till you get on the bus to start eating. So we would get that, hold it. By the time we got on the bus at 7, we would eat that. If we were lucky, we would watch a movie. And then we would arrive in New York. And we would get out to Canal Street as early as possible, usually around 9:30, and we would buy a bunch of clothes and then bring them back to Philadelphia. Now, to get out there early was always the best because it was so flooded back in the 90s. So flooded. I'm talking about you had to hold everything in your pockets to make sure you won't get pickpocketed. It was crazy. But you get off that train and you smell Chinatown, right? You smell everything. I can't even describe the smell, but it's so nostalgic. It's just one of those things. Right? A lot of people refer to it as stink, but but for me, it just reminds me of my childhood, this fast-moving childhood. We would bring the clothes back home and we would sell it on the street. We would have clothes loaded in our book bag and we would just go out there. Sometimes myself, I would stand in front of stores and I would say, hey, don't go inside that store, buy from me. I'll give it to you for half the price. Just walk me up the street. And then they'll walk me up the street and I'll sell it to them and I'm like, yeah. And I'll walk off and I got some money in my pocket. And so at the end of the night, my brother and I, we would take whatever money we earned, and he would take the money he earned and put it into bigger bills, so $100 bills, and I would take my money and turn it into $50 bills. And then we would go back home and we would count it. And something that always impressed me was that he would take everything that he earned and he would flip it the next day. He would make the plan, I'm taking all of this. I'm going to take this whole stack, and I'm going to flip this whole stack. And I'm like, I'm just going to take half, right? So he would take his whole thing and he would flip it. He would do it. The next day, he would buy a bunch of stuff, bring it back, and sell everything the same day. And we did that for some time, but also around the age of 18, I had a crazy experience, which also kind of led to me making the decision to leave Philadelphia. I remember one night we were walking home from the club really early in the morning. It's like 2 days before New Year's, 1998. 99 something? 1998, right? I'm getting older. I'm 45 now, right? So 1998, we're walking home early in the morning. These guys, they drove up on the side of the road, on the other side of the road. This is 56 and Market, under the train. And they looped around and then they parked about 20 feet in front of us. And as we're getting close to them, we can see that they're covering their face. So we're like, okay, this is not going to be good. We're thinking, okay, maybe they're going to get out and try to rob us. No. By the time we get past the car about 20 feet, they get out the car, 3 dudes, and start shooting at us. Pop, 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 pop. And I'm 18 years old. I'm like, well, I never had this before. I'm a kid. And so I'm running, and there's ice on the ground, and I'm running in the mud, and I look to see, okay, I'm looking around for my brother and his friends, and I'm looking at the guy who's shooting at us, and I turn back around, and I slip. I slipped on some ice. And I remember when I slipped, the bullets hit the door that was next to me. And to this day, I don't remember getting back up, but I got back up, obviously, and I hit the corner, and I ran, and I eventually got back home. I was the first one to get back home to where we were living. And one by one, there was 5 of us. One by one, we would show up. And we were sitting there, we were waiting for my brother, and it's like, yo, where Kev at? Where Kev at? Like, nobody knew where Kev was. And then he eventually came in, and I'm like, ah. But he was so mad. He's like, what's wrong with you, E? That's what they call me, E. E Money, E Baller, E Bear. Nafisha, stop that. But he was like, yo, what's wrong with you, E? You getting shot at, you gonna fall? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, I didn't know. But, that's just an older brother. He was scared. He was scared. He's like, yo, I almost lost my younger brother. And so time went on, and I eventually said, you know what? This is too much for me. I'm not a street guy. I was out there being in the street, but I'm not a street guy. I didn't want to be that guy. So I decided, let me escape. So I joined the military. Not full-time, just a part-time thing. So the reserves. So, reserves are just 2 days out of the month. So I went away for almost a year, and I became a soldier. I became an official soldier 2 weeks before 9/11, which is crazy. So this is 2000. 2 weeks before 9/11. I had no idea that 9/11 was going to happen. But I became a soldier. So it's crazy, right? Because you leave the hood to escape getting shot at just to go to a place where they teach you how to get shot at. But you know, at 18 years old, it was the most logical decision. I need to escape this crazy environment. Plus, I had no idea that we were going to go to war. But I signed up and I became a soldier, and then I came back home. And you know, for some time, I would just work a regular job. And then 2 days out of the month, I would go and I would do the soldier thing. And my brother was so proud of me. Big time. He was like, yo, that's right, E. You did it. He was like, man, I would go in with you, but you know, I got in trouble too many times. You know, my record's already messed up. And you know, but he was so proud of me. And that made it a whole lot easier, right? Because like, okay, big bro is proud of me. I've been following my older brother since I was a baby, right? So if he's proud of me, I'm definitely on the right path, right? So I joined the military, and you know, he's still selling clothes. He had a baby on the way, so he's like, hey, you know, I gotta go ahead and get everything smooth, get everything right, and it was going great. But unfortunately, not too long after, he passed away. You know, so I lost my older brother. And now I'm out here by myself. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do at this point? Philadelphia, it no longer felt like the place to be, you know? So I left. I went and I said, hey, bring me into the military full time. I want to be a full-time soldier. So he passed away in 2002, February. And I arrived here January 2003. 2 weeks after I arrived, I went straight to Iraq. Crazy experience. And I was a truck driver, which is the worst job that you want to have in the military. Yo, you know the crazy thing is, they advertise it so crazy. Oh, join up. We got a job for you. You want a job that's exciting? Become a truck driver. Yeah, become a truck driver. They sold me that job. I was like, you truck driver? They was like, yeah, truck driver. You drive the big trucks, the 18-wheelers. You can transport fuel. I was like, man, oh, really? Give me that one. So I came in and, you know, now I'm in Iraq driving trucks. And I'm thinking like, yo, this recruiter said that this is a cool job. And so I'm driving and I'm like, this ain't cool at all. Bombs going off. You know, near-death experiences, man, getting shot at on. It's just, listen, man, if you join the military from this point on, don't become a truck driver. It's a trick, man. Go and become a cook. Become a cook or become like a nurse, right? Go work in the medical stuff. Because like the nurses, they were always inside the tents. They always had air conditioning. That's where you want to go. That's where you want. Trust me, from an insider, that's where you want to go. Or just go into the Air Force. You know, the Air Force had a base on our base, which is crazy. They had their own coffee bean, which is like a coffee shop, the whole nine, right? So either way, I'm sorry, I'm over here crying, man. You know, so I wound up going to Iraq, and I was there for a whole year. And the crazy thing is, I came back. And for me, I felt like, okay, I'm normal. I felt normal because my normal was getting shot at. Being in an environment where getting shot at was normal. Like I grew up in Philadelphia. You know, certain neighborhoods that we lived in, sometimes we would go to sleep listening to gunshots. As a kid, I could tell you what the gun was that was going off in the background. Oh yeah, that's a 9mm. Oh, that was a shotgun. Yeah, you just know. That's the environment. So going to Iraq, it was like, okay, at least now I got some training. I got a team with me. It's a different situation. Now, I'm not going to go into that experience right now, right? That's for another video, but that's how I ended up there. But I will say this. I have been in houses with Iraqi people, and I've eaten with them. I've been in the village. I played with the kids. I had a different experience than a lot of soldiers. Yes, I had the experience of like people trying to kill me, but I also had the experience of really coming in contact with these people and them being so hospitable, right? And it just changes how you see the people that are shown much differently in the media, right? And I'll go into that at a different time. But so I was there for a whole year, came back. I didn't know what to do next. I'm still in the military, and I'm just kind of like moving around, and I'm just walking around with so much pain. I'm walking around with the pain from my childhood, from the loss of my brother, the military experience, and I needed a hug, man. And I found somebody, and they gave me that hug, and that was my ex-wife. What's up? But either way, make a long story short, I wound up getting out the military around 2006. So no more driving trucks. I wound up getting into supply chain management, and then I wound up moving into casualty coordinator for the military. It was quite the experience, you know. It's one of those jobs where it's rewarding because now you get to take care of the families of your military brothers and sisters. So casualty coordinator, so you understand, I was the one who got the phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning many times when a soldier would die at war, or when they passed away simply of old ages, but they used to be a soldier, or they were, you know, a veteran. And so I would have to go into my office and call in somebody to then go out and send a notification to that, or give a notification to that family and let them know what happened. And I found myself many times inside of living rooms there with the family, and they were like, oh yeah, this is so-and-so when he was like, you know, this is when he first joined the military, and everybody's sitting there crying, and I'm thinking to myself, Eric, don't cry. Don't cry, man. You can't, somebody in this room has to be strong at this point. And so I'm a very empathetic person. I will hold back those tears while I'm there, and then I will eventually go home and just let loose. You know, and then I will go to the military funerals, and I will always escape before they played the taps. Any soldier knows once taps comes on, man, it's waterworks. Yeah, man. Look it up. Look it up. But 2012, the military bases in Mannheim started shutting down. And I said, okay, you know, I was studying in the evening at that time. So I was studying my bachelor's degree. And I eventually got a degree in computer science, specifically information technology. And so I used that degree to pivot a bit from American government and then into the German system. And so now I'm moving into the German company. So this is 2012, and I stepped in as a software developer. Yeah, I was doing like software development, you know, a bit of VBA coding here, a bit of SQL. And I did that for some time. And then I decided, okay, it's time for me to move on. So I moved into a position of data management. Now, the whole time I'm living in Mannheim. Mannheim is a city in Germany nearby Frankfurt. And I did data management for a little bit, and then I said, okay, it's time for me to do something else. So I left the city completely, and I moved to Berlin, which is where I live now. So I had lived in Mannheim for 13 years. From 2003 to 2016, 13 years I was there. And so I said, I need something different. I need a new scenery. So I moved to Berlin, and when I came here, I started working at a company. I was a consultant for enterprise architecture, but I was mainly just like doing trainings. I would give trainings on our in-house products, right? So I would go to different countries. So I've given trainings on our in-house product in Abu Dhabi, which is right next to Dubai. I've given trainings in France, in Turkey, and it activated something in me. I had already been giving trainings, but when I started giving trainings in different parts of the world and I started to really understand the impact that I was having, I said, okay, yeah, this is something that I really enjoy doing. I love this. And so I did that job at this enterprise architecture company for some time. And then I moved into business intelligence. Now, the business intelligence side of things, you know, I'm over there building data warehouses and data vaults. It was interesting, but I wasn't completely pleased with the environment, right? My experience as a black person there wasn't I wasn't too pleased, I'll say. And also I was doing comedy in the evening. I was doing stand-up comedy. This is actually how I learned how to speak German. So I had started doing stand-up comedy in 2017, right? I had met a friend of mine, Masood. What's going on, man? He brought me into English comedy. And then around 2018, he introduced me to Tamika Campbell out here. And she brought me into the German side. And so she helped me take all of my English jokes and then translate them into German. And then she would sit on her couch with her and her German friends. And she would say, now tell me your jokes. And so I would stand in front of her and her friends, and I would just tell them my jokes in German. And she was like, no, you need to say it different. And I'm like, all right, so how should I say it? She's like, well, in German, you got to say it this way for the audience to understand you. So I would say, okay, cool. And so I would start saying it that way. And she said, all right, now what we're going to do tonight, we're going to go and get on some stages. And I'm like, okay. So I would go and get on the stage, and I would do my my best impersonation of a person who speaks German. So I would get up there and I would say all my jokes, and I would get laughs. And I was like, okay, this is working. This is working. I started getting better. Now, people thought because I was becoming a bit better that I could actually speak German fluently, but I couldn't, right? So after my show, they would come up and try to talk to me, and I'm like, ich muss los. I gotta go. And I would leave. I remember one time, they put me on the radio Fritz, because there was a show that night. I had a German show that I was going to do, and they put me on the radio. And the host is sitting there talking to me, right? And I'm answering all his questions wrong because I didn't understand anything he was saying, right? But either way, long story short, I'm doing German in the evening, and I'm starting to feel like I'm healing from the different things that I had encountered in my life up to that point. And I wasn't happy about the experience at the job that I was working at. I won't go into any detail on that, but it was bringing a lot of trauma back to the forefront. I'll just say that. And so I made the conscious decision. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to become a full-time stand-up comedian. So this was like 2019. And so I became a full-time stand-up comedian, only doing German because I figured, okay, well, German is the bigger challenge, and doing it in German makes the most money. All right, so now I'm getting on stage every night, 2 to 3 times a night. I'm bouncing around the city from just say Neukölln to Prince Lauberg to Mitte, and it's happening. I'm getting on stage every night, nothing but German people inside there, and I'm getting big laughs. Big laughs. Now I'm starting to get booked. I'm getting paid, and I'm like, okay, this is where it's at. This is where it's at. And it's going down, man. Every day I'm getting in the gym. You know, I'm like, okay, I got to be a sex symbol. So I'm getting in the gym 2.5 hours every day. I'm working out. I'm getting swole, right? The muscles are growing. Everything is just happening, man. I'm like, yeah, I left my job. I'm throwing it all in there. And then it's 2019, y'all. Y'all know what happened. Pandemic happened. So now I can't get on stage anymore. Nobody can get on stage. We couldn't hardly even go outside, let alone get on stage. So all that work I had put in, that big decision that I made to become a full-time stand-up comedian and do that, now it's gone. But I couldn't just sit home and not do anything, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to learn something. So I sketched out this 5-month plan for myself. I'm going to learn data science. I said, so for the first couple months, I'm going to learn Python, right? And then I'm going to learn Microsoft Azure, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this data science certification. And I did it. And about 2 weeks after earning my data science certification, I got a phone call that a big company needed a data scientist. I interviewed for the company. They liked me, and I got hired. That company was Mercedes-Benz. So now, 2021, I'm working as a data scientist in Mercedes-Benz. And it was like, this is crazy. I'm working at Mercedes-Benz. And I think about, okay, I started off as a truck driver, transporting fuel, but now I'm at Mercedes-Benz. And I'm doing stuff like statistical analysis and, a bunch of smart people stuff. And I'm just like, I'm thinking back, but you were 16 years old. You dropped out of school. You stopped going to school at 12 years old. And it's like, how the heck did you end up here? And the only thing that I can say that really got me to that point was like, I pivot. I pivot very well. And I'm always on the lookout for opportunities. I do not sit idle. That is not my thing. I have to do something. Now, after 1 year of working at Mercedes-Benz, I contacted a company. I contacted them so I can take part in a Scrum training. I wanted to learn something new. And so I took part in this Scrum training, and I had booked like a one-on-one with the trainer just to talk about the exam that I wanted to take. And I was giving him a bit of a background about myself. And he said, hey, well, have you ever thought about being a full-time trainer? And I was like, no, not really. He said, send us your resume. Let's see what happens. I sent them my resume, and then I became a full-time trainer. One of the best things I've ever done. Now, Mercedes-Benz, great experience. Big up to the team over there. I appreciate y'all making that a beautiful experience for me, right? But then I moved on and I became a full-time trainer at Maxpert. Now, the crazy thing was I became a trainer in German. When I first started there for about 1.5 to 2 years, I was only teaching in German. And the German that I was teaching in came from me learning how to speak German on the comedy stages. Crazy, right? So if you ever want to learn how to speak a language, one suggestion, one tip, write a bunch of jokes, translate it from whatever your first language is, and then put it into that next language, and then just throw yourself in the cold water, and voila. Right? Now, that job took me all over Germany. I've taught for the German police, right? I've taught Audi, I've taught Deloitte, SAP. And then halfway through my time at this company, I started working with Article 26. All right. And Article 26, they deliver products in Africa, specifically Rwanda. And I just got back from Ghana with them. And an amazing experience. I got the opportunity to create a lot of trainings. So soft skill trainings for communication, time management, road mapping, data analysis, AI and project management. I created these trainings and then I delivered them to the students in Rwanda. I've created hackathons and I've delivered hackathons in Rwanda. Now, the first time arriving in Rwanda was just something special for me. As a Black American, I'm like, I'm returning home. Now, I didn't know exactly where in Africa I was from because if you don't know the history of America, the most Black people that you have in America were stolen from Africa and then taken there. And then our history was erased. So I had no idea where I was from. So when I got to Africa, I was like, I'm home. And it was just amazing because like not only am I home, but now I'm bringing something back and I'm giving them something that I learned from the place, or from a different part of the world that kind of snatched me out of that environment. So I felt like I was returning home with a gift. Now, eventually I found out that, through a heritage test that I'm mainly Nigerian, which is crazy because when I was in Rwanda, nobody looked at me as a Black American. Everybody kept on asking me, are you Nigerian? Are you Nigerian? And I knew that accent was horrible. If you're listening, I'm going through so many different accents in my head. That was not the one that was for you. But either way, they was like, are you Nigerian? I'm like, nah. And so they saw more about me than I saw about myself, which was like just amazing. It already felt great that they saw me as another African, right? And not as a Black American. I love being a Black American. Don't misunderstand me. But to see my roots before I even know what my roots are was just mind-blowing. Right. So now I continue on and I'm doing these different projects. And then I had another opportunity to create another program for Ghana. Now, by this time, I know that I'm Nigerian. Now, Ghana is not right next to Nigeria, but they are kind of like neighbors in a way. And so by the time I arrive in Ghana, I'm like, this feels like home. Because now everybody that I see looks like people that I grew up with. Now, we all know that. But a lot of people know that the slave trade also included Ghanaians. So Ghanaians, Nigerians, people from Togo, people from Sierra Leone, right? West Africa. And so we all share a resemblance. So when I walk around Ghana, I feel, this is definitely the place where I'm from. Nobody's looking at me as if I'm out of place. Nobody's asking me where I'm from because they automatically assume, okay, he's from here. Until they start talking to me like, where are you from? What's this accent? Are you American? If that accent is completely off, don't hate me, right? But where are you from? Yeah. So I had the opportunity to teach and to deliver a gift in Ghana. And so I love teaching. And so I am now an educator. And that is a very summarized story of how I arrived in Germany and how I arrived at being a international, I guess you can call me an international educator at this point. And so I thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed any bit of it, like this video, subscribe, I got some more videos coming up very soon, and I look forward to talking to you further and giving you the black experience, alright? But as I mentioned, there will be some other experiences here as well. Borderless Black, subscribe, like. I'll see you soon. Until then.